Welcome to today's talk with Erika. I'm Erika Del Sordo, and I'm so happy you have joined us. Please remember to subscribe so you know when the latest episode is out. Well, joining me today is one of my favorite guests, Courtland Smith, owner of White Wolf Holistics. I also have the pleasure of introducing Courtland's mom, Laura Smith. Laura brings more than 2 decades of experience to the holistic wellness field. What folks might find most interesting today is that, in addition to in person body work, she also has built a strong practice in long distance energy sessions. And it's not only for humans, Laura can also work her healing energy on animals. Welcome to the show.
Thank you,
Thank
Erica.
you.
You're welcome. So, Courtland, I know you're kind of a regular here on today's talk with Erica, and I love talking about White Wolf Holistics, and you've got some amazing things happening over there in Jacksonville. So, I know that we're going to get into Laura's amazing stuff that she's doing long distance, but I know that you want to talk about the emotion and body code scientific kind of explanation as to how we go about all of that.
Yes. So with the emotion code, body code, it's part of the bioenergetic kinesiology family of modalities, and it works with muscle testing or muscle response feedback and working with the five elements and then the emotions and then how that works with the body. So it's picking up and reading your bioenergetic field and imbalances. So stuff
Mhm.
that's happening in the energetic field, but then also that's translating exact into the body and how the body is storing or working or not working with those imbalances.
Hmm. Wow. Now, are you talking about in person strictly, or this is how it happens long distance?
But it's the same either way.
Same thing. Okay.
Energy, as far as quantum physics is concerned, energy doesn't care about distance, time, or space. So essentially, whether it's a long distance or in person, in the energetic realm of just how nature and physics presents it, it's as if you're standing right next to each other. There's a lot of different studies where they've tested that. There was one study where they took a tissue sample. One tissue sample stayed on one side of the country, the other went to the other side, and they gave an electrical stimulus to the one tissue, and there was an exact response at the exact same time to this tissue on the other side of the country.
That's amazing. I've
So that
actually experienced this, so I know that what you're talking about is absolutely spot on. Laura, talk to me about how you go about doing this to just from start to finish.
All I do is I just pretty much ask if they have Apple phones or if they have used WhatsApp because I do everything through FaceTime. Or not FaceTime or video call. Even if I'm working with an animal, I FaceTime with my animals that I'm working on with the owners. It is great because then I can see the animal's response, how it's sitting there. I will literally, how often do you know of a cat that will just sit there and be still while it gets worked on?
Never.
Okay. When I start to work on animals, especially cats, dogs, they'll usually just lay down and sit still until it's time that they need to move around to adjust and to react to whatever I'm doing. It's quite fascinating. I had a cat that I did some emotion code with because I always try to release whatever trapped emotions are around a situation because there's anything can create stress in the body. But we want to release the emotions around that stress also to help the body to release whatever else it needs to release. So it's not holding on to the emotions around it first. I mean, I had a cat that got hit by a vehicle and it was an emergency situation. I got a phone call. Actually, they called for Courtland. They couldn't get Courtland, so they got me. And anyway, I had to release the emotion of guilt because it felt guilty of running out in front of the car. A lot of animals show that they're so grateful and they love their owner, and that love usually comes through. And then some and guilt and different things come through too. And then if they've been a rescue dog, I usually have to go back to where before they were rescued and deal with whatever PTSD or trauma that they may have experienced and help them release that so then they can have a better life with their new people, their new family. so they don't bring old trauma into their new living situation. So, and then I also help animals like maybe with thunder and how they respond and how they panic. You know, how does a dog react when you leave the house? Is it underneath so much stress because its owner's not there and it's like pacing? I like to help animals in different ways.
Hi, my name is Joanne. I live in Canada. I want to highly recommend Laura of Animal Talks to anyone with fur babies. She has been an immense help with our 16-year-old Ginge gentleman who has had a little bit of some stubborn behaviors that we wanted to understand. And she has this beautiful ability just to be able to connect with an animal anywhere in the world. So she's helped us to understand him and, help to give him what he wants and needs. I mean, that's why we have our beautiful fur babies, right? We want to make them happy and comfortable.
I literally had one dog that follows the owner. It was a rescue dog and was given to her. It was the dog's third home. And the dog literally follows her from room to room. She's never alone. The dog is like Velcro. I did a session with this animal, this dog, this puppy last week. And and the dog never lays down long enough to actually get brushed out. So while I was working on the dog and the dog was laying on the floor being motionless pretty much, she was able to brush the dog out because the dog was so still. She couldn't believe that. And then also, I got a text. I haven't heard, I did two puppies, to both her dogs. I haven't heard a single peep out of either dog since this morning. And for the first time ever, Hannah hasn't followed me around all day. So,
Wow.
because that's one of the things that we worked on. So when I actually start working on it, if it's I call it human or animal, people or animal, the first thing I do is I try to find the story. What is the story? Because every one of us has our story. Or what has got us to this point? What is it in our story that is blocking us or stumbling us up that's creating the problems that we're having right now, or stopping us from maybe a goal that we have, or what's creating all the stress? Like when my son calls me and says, Mom, I need it. Just release whatever trapped emotions. I'm dealing with this right now. So when I do that, I try to find out what the story is. What's the focus that we really need to deal with? So I make quite a few notes. I ask some questions about what's going on. And then I always figure it like a log jam. So I grew up in a logging industry family. So it's just one of the things that I think about in Northern British Columbia. And so when you are thinking about a log jam, you need to figure out what is the first log that you can pull out that's going to help unjam everything. So that's my focus, is what is that specific log that I get to pull that's going to unjam all this stuff for that person and to release it and to help them. And so I muscle test what is the highest priority out of all the things that they told me that we need to work on. So then I use that highest priority and I clear the emotions around it. And then I also go into something called body code, which is the next step. It's a higher up. So emotion code is here, then body code. And I do both in the same session because I think it just has to be in the same session for me to do it the way I do it. And then in body code, you work to find out what is the first imbalance. What is the imbalance that's creating an issue with that focus? So what is the imbalance that's working with the body that against you for that focus? And then we find that focus, we find the first imbalance, and that could be just one imbalance, but it could also have an associated imbalance and another associated imbalance to that imbalance. And it can go down, which I call the rabbit trail. And then you clear and release and do all the fixing when you find the end of the rabbit trail all the way back up. And it creates things and changes lives, because once you release and clear or change it, it's done. It's no longer there. It just kind of, it's like magic. It just kind of goes away. I usually have people come back and say, even during the session, some people don't feel it right away. It could be 2 to 3 days later and they feel the response, and some people feel it right away. And a lot of people leave saying, I feel calmer. Um, I always have a box of tissues handy because there's some crying and some emotional releasing sometimes when I'm doing this type of work. But I have this one little testimony. I've been working with this lady. She was having skin reactions to anything she ate. She was down to eating like maybe 19 different kinds of foods and stuff, having a really hard time and bloating and itchiness and rashes. It was just horrible for her. Um, and I got this text. I'm going to just read it. She gave me permission.
Okay.
I absolutely love you, Laura Smith. Just spent my birthday weekend away. Instead of worrying about what food I could actually eat, I got to enjoy the weekend away and enjoy some treats. I am rashless. I'm a little bloated in my belly and my face, but nowhere near to what I was before. I got to get back into things now for the week, but I actually got to enjoy life this weekend for the first time in 3 years.
Wow. Wow.
So I love when I get texts like that after some sessions. And at that time, I'd only done 2 sessions with her.
I have been seeing Laura for body and emotion coding for about 3.5 months now. I do it all virtually over FaceTime with her as I live in Canada. She has helped me beyond belief with how my body reacts to every food under the sun. She has helped with the coding as well as her massive knowledge of body functions, with detoxing specifically. She has also helped with surrogate and emotion coding with my 7-year-old son. I have seen many natural paths over the years and none have helped as much as Laura, even being in different countries. It has only been a short time working with Laura, and I am so excited to see how much more can be done over the next 6, 9, and 12 months.
Here's a question because people can tell you, you know what? That session was great, but I didn't get a full release. Let me come back. Maybe they got to do it 3 times, like you were explaining. What happens with an animal? How do you know? They can't tell you that. So, how do you know when you finally had that log release with an animal?
Um, Usually the people can just tell how the animal is reacting. Usually they're good. Animals hold their balances a lot longer than we do.
That we do, right?
Because they let go of things. Animals are easy because they give love in that unconditional way.
True.
Um, and they are forgiving and they are loving. And we as humans, we hold grudges, we hold things, and we go back into history where an animal, once they let it go, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like they don't hold on to things like as humans we do.
Right.
That's my best way to explain it. I mean, Courtland started working with me at the age of 10. I used him as a surrogate when I worked on a lot of animals long distance before I started doing it this way that I'm doing it. I actually started doing long distance energy work with my dad over a phone call because I couldn't help him physically and he was 12 hours away. So I needed to figure out how to do it. And that's how I started doing long distance energy work, is because I needed to help my dad. And yeah. And so
That's
my dad's my
amazing.
best friend. And so I needed to help him. So I did. And so when Courtland started actually working with animals at the age of 13, 14 on rodeo horses, I mean, high professional horses, he
Amazing.
says, Mom, how do I do this? I said, you already know how. Go sit down and just do it. That's the kind of training he got. Go with your inner knowing, and you already know how to do it. We come from a family of healers, generational healers. And so it's really neat to see how that is getting passed down even into my granddaughters, his twin daughters, and how they're already picking it up without even knowing what they're doing. And that's the best way, because we're not forcing an issue. They either will want to go into this line of work or they won't. But they have the gift. And it's fabulous. I mean, my daughter, she's not working with this, but when she was 18 months old and I had a client on the table, she would crawl up onto the chair because she usually played underneath the table. She crawled up on the chair and she used to put, if they needed to help relax, she would put her little hands, one hand on each foot, and that person's body would just totally relax so I could actually do the work I needed to do. And she started doing that at 18 months old.
There is something
And Courtland's,
generational with your family then. That's amazing.
oh, and the twins, Courtland's daughters have that same
Wow.
relaxation to people. And when they help people, it's fantastic to watch and see them grow and to experience our world. that we live in a
Right.
different way that's just different.
Right. So Courtland's been doing this for about, what, 25 years now. And you'd never guess that. And I mean, this is why you're such a wealth of information. Every time we have a show, you know so much about this. I mean, that's a long time to be doing this. And not only that, it's just kind of like ingrained in your family bloodline, right?
Hmm.
So this is impressive. I love this. I love this. I think everyone should do this. I was talking to Laura earlier on the phone. I said I need to get my call in because of myself and my animals. I have a husky. I have one of those Siberian huskies that you see all over social media that screams bloody murder.
Hmm.
Yeah, the panic attacks are real.
They are.
So, so I think that we need to get on a call. But what else is new over there, Courtland? What else is happening with White Wolf Holistics lately?
We're growing, and it's fun having all of my extra services, the sound table, the tuning forks, the Hocat ozone sauna, the foot detox, and then the emotion code body code element, and just having a a huge protocol or program that people can custom fill in how they want it when they need it.
Right.
Um, and when we get to utilize all the things, man, the changes happen pretty quickly. It's like for people who they come in and they're saying they've been dealing with this for years, if not their whole life, and we're making changes that are noticeable either the same day or within a few days. And then if they stick with it and they do a number of sessions with it, usually if they've stuck through at least 10 sessions, whatever those sessions are, they're in a completely different spot than when they started. And I call it the comfort zone. When people walk in, sadly, the pain and the stress and all the other things, how you are, that's the body's comfort zone. And it works really hard to get there because it's a survival mechanism. So how you know you've made that lasting change is when we've changed that comfort zone to one that is healthier, happier, and just easier to be with. So the body wants to go back to its comfort zone. So if you
Hmm.
don't stick with it long enough, the body's going to go back to its old comfort zone. The real lasting change is when they get to that new spot. The Hocat sauna and the foot detox and the sound table, they're helping people deepen that experience because it's helping get that oxygen. It's helping that nervous system really calm down and circulation. We're very stagnant. We don't get that lymph to move. It's like the analogy, you have your house. This is our house. If you don't take the garbage out consistently and it backs up in the house,
Right.
it's like that's not a fun place to be. But that's what we're dealing with. So getting that vessel, getting the body clear, clean, moving, circulate. We're meant to move. Your blood is supposed to flow. Your lymph is supposed to flow. Emotions are supposed to flow through you, not just keep stacking up in your house.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Flow. We need flow.
It's a great
So
way to put it. Really
yeah,
great way to put it. A lot of people hold that up and you can tell
you can
they just,
tell
yeah,
how
yeah,
you walk in is your body's resume. I
yeah.
can read, oh, you do the desk job or you're doing this, and if people don't move. Once again, that's a flow thing. You need that fascia to be open and moving and fluid, and then you can have energy. The number one thing, it doesn't matter what the service is, really. People get off the table or out of the hook and I feel lighter. And they're like, this is going to sound crazy. And I don't know if anybody else does this, but I feel lighter. And I'm like, yeah, that's
That's so
it.
funny.
That's the number one feeling. Grounded. Sometimes when people think of being grounded, they feel heavy, right? It's like
Right.
slammed into the dirt. Real grounded is this light, floaty feeling.
Hmm.
My daughter had a very traumatic experience when she was 3. She was a preemie, so when she got sick, the epiglottis would um it would start to close off. And then one night it did to where she was like wheezing like a really bad asthma attack and she couldn't breathe. And I mean we got it all cleared up and the EMTs came out, but I had her breathing by the time they came. But that that terror and panic stayed with her. So when she was like 5, and anytime she got sick and she was losing her voice, she would start yelling, which made her lose her voice faster. And it was just panic mode. She couldn't sit still. She was making herself worse, but she couldn't calm down. I called mom. Mom's still in Canada. Mom, can you do some emotion code body code with Aubrey real quick? And within 5 minutes, she was calm. Within 10 minutes, she was playing happily on the couch. She was no longer screaming. She was no longer worried about her voice. And she never had that same level of terror. Again, we had to do a couple follow-ups, right? Because that was a very, very vivid thing that was in, PTSD like. But now she would never, she's 8. You'd never know that she had that experience when she gets sick.
Wow.
And it's just a regular sickness. Kaylin, she got hit by a baseball at a baseball stadium.
Jeez.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, geez.
We all needed emotion code at that point. We all needed it. But one of the first calls was to mom. And I was like, Mom, I need you doing the thing the whole time. So she was doing emotion code and releasing emotions as they were happening, the terror and the panic and all of it. Got to the EMS, we got to the emergency room, through the emergency room, and because something like that happens, someone throws something, doesn't matter what it is, she's gonna like revert right back to that
Right.
mode. We went to a baseball game, this same stadium again the next year, and she was able to have a great time.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
there was very easy for her. Anytime she heard a loud crack and she couldn't see the ball, there was like a moment of like, where is it? But it wasn't like inducing that major trigger of I'm gonna get smacked in the head again.
Right. Oh, geez. Wow.
So, and that's another thing is we don't have to have you relive the whole trauma. It could be as simple as I have this trigger, and then we don't have to talk about it again. We just do the releasing and bringing up the emotions. We don't have to have the person talk about all of their stuff because that can actually cause the body to go right back into that mode and relive all of that stuff. The hormones start to dump, the emotions start to fill the body. Anger takes 8 hours to process once it's released in the system.
I didn't know that.
It takes 8 hours for the body to process all those hormones and chemicals that are the, anger ones.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why it's so exhausting once you get angry because it's a whole day event now for your body to clean that up.
What I've heard when you frown, you're using more facial
Mhm.
muscles than when you smile. Kind of the same concept,
Yeah,
right?
there's more tension in the body at that point.
So then just don't be angry. But in the last show, we were talking about, remember when you had said, anger is a great emotion to have because that also keeps you going, right?
In everything in balance.
Yeah.
You can't have too much and you can't have too little.
Right.
Everything needs if you have too much joy, how exhausting does that get to be?
Right. Right.
So there is such a thing.
Yeah, that's true. It was very nice having all of you on. Laura, I'm going to have all of your contacts and anything that everyone needs to find you in the About section. I've been popping stuff up here as well. But if they need to find you, all they do is go into the comments section or the About section and they can find all of your contacts. It's also, of course, on whitewolfholistics.com.
Mhm.
And of course, we know where to find Courtland, but every single one of the links we've mentioned today will still be in that About section. I really thank you so much for sharing everything that you guys do. It's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
You're welcome.
Thank you.